Hi everyone, I hope you guys are all okay. I have had a really interesting thing happen to me earlier this week, which was rather exciting. My sister has been reading Take Courage, the book about Anne Bronte that I reviewed recently, and she tweeted the author Samantha Ellis, who replied back to her. She then tweeted my video review to Samantha, who watched it and liked it and replied back to my sister and asked to thank me for doing it. So yeah, that's crazy. Really exciting. So that Samantha has seen my video, and it's really made me really chuffed. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. So yeah, thank you to everybody who also has also watched it. But anyway, I'm here to talk about the book that I've been reading recently, and that is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Now, in case you don't know my history with this book, which I've talked about a few times by myself and also when I did the Bronte video with my sister, I had real problems with Jane Eyre. I picked up Jane Eyre when I was about 15, tried to read it, and Jane drove me mad. I couldn't stand her. She just irritated me so much. I was like, for goodness sake, please do something. The 15-year-old me just couldn't put up with her. Couldn't do it. So I put the book aside, and my sister absolutely loved Jane Eyre, and I just couldn't deal with it. So I decided to rebel and go with a different Bronte sister. I went for Emily. I picked up Wuthering Heights. I fell in love with it, and since then has been my favourite book of all time. I just adore Wuthering Heights. So, as the years have gone by, I've always liked the story of Jane Eyre. I just couldn't stand reading it at all. And so, yeah, years have gone by, and since I've turned about 30, I've really gone back into the story, like really kind of more in depth. So when it came to picking a book in January, because I had read Ten Wafa Hall in November or December, I can't remember which month it was, then read Anne Bronte book by Samantha Ellis, which I absolutely adored. I was really in a Bronte mood. Throughout reading the Anne Bronte one, I was listening to constantly on my iPod Jane Eyre radio play and Jane Eyre the musical, Wuthering Heights the musical, Wuthering Heights dramas. I was watching every DVD I owned that related to Bronte stuff. I was like obsessed with Bronte. So when it came to my last pick for January, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna read Jane Eyre, and I am so happy that I have. When I went into reading Jane Eyre, properly reading Jane Eyre, I didn't know how I was going to feel about it, and especially I'm glad that I had such a long time between when I originally tried it and now, because I had that complete detachment. I couldn't remember certain passages. Obviously I know the story because I watched the dramas so many times and listened to radio plays so many times, so it wasn't a surprise of things happening, but it was the way that she structures a story, her choosing of words, that kind of thing about an author. I'd completely forgotten that, so it was like reading a book for the very first time, and I just fell in love with it. And it's very strange, right? I am frustrated at the 15-year-old me who didn't really embrace the story, who didn't give it a proper go, who didn't connect with Jane. But if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have picked up Wuthering Heights, and I wouldn't have that passion that I do for it, and I wouldn't have my love for Bronte and the Brontes and all that lot without that happening. So I can't be frustrated at my 15-year-old self. So yeah, I kind of have a weird thought about the 15-year-old me and where she was in headspace and now when reading Jane Eyre for the first time. But that's that. But anyway, about this book, the synopsis, in case you don't know, Jane Eyre is written as an autobiography. of the character Jane Eyre. She is a girl who lives, when she's a child, she lives with her Aunt Reed and um, her aunt's three children, her cousins, and she is quite a rebellious kind of child. Is that she fights for herself. She has passion and she feels stuff and all that lot. And because of that, she's considered a bad seed. So she is sent away to Lord School, a school for girls, a charity school, because Jane doesn't have any parents. Her parents died when she was a baby, and she stays there all year round for 8 years. And she she has friendships and such, and you learn about that. But when she's 18, she decides that she cannot be at Lorwood School anymore, so she advertises as a governess. She gets a job at Thornfield Hall to look after a little girl called Adele, who Mr. Rochester, the owner of Thornfield, she is his ward. And it's about their relationship and how it develops and where it goes. But there's also a secret in the house that, when exposed, will cause quite a ruckus in their relationship. I won't say any more than that, else I'm going to be giving a lot away. And even though it's one of those things, it's like Moby Dick, like everybody knows the ending, everybody knows what happens in Jane Eyre, but I don't want to say what it is in case there are people who are watching this who don't know. So there we go. So I will be say no more about that. But going back to this book, it is so beautifully written, so beautifully structured. I absolutely fell head over heels in love with Mr. Rochester, because he is not only, he's a handsome man, he's charming, he's witty and that, but he's always playing a game with Jane. He's always trying to figure her out. He says things that you wouldn't expect somebody to say. He feels so many emotions, and at one point in this book he is sobbing in front of her, begging her, do this, that and the other, that you wouldn't expect in other books, in classic literature, for a man to do, because it's seen that if a man shows an emotion, that's a terrible thing. He must be, straight faced, he must be stern and all this lot. There is a character later on in the book called St. John who we meet, and he is the polar opposite of Rochester, in that he is very stern. Everything has to be done in a specific way. We have to conform to society. We have to do this, that. And Jane's saying, no, you don't have to do that. Feel wholeheartedly. Do what you want to do. Do something. And I love her passion, her drive and everything. And I love that Mr. Rochester has that same ability. And, as I said, as a male character, he's going, yeah, I'm crying because I feel like I need to cry. I need to get this out. That's wonderful, wonderful to read. I want to read out a couple of things to you that I love. Things like, to show you kind of a passion speech of Jane's. I'm going to read something from a scene, a very important scene. I don't want to say what the scene is because it'll give stuff away, but this is a speech that Jane makes, showing her passion and how she feels about things, just to give you an example of how Jane is, which is very famous in from Jane Eyre. So it says, sorry, I just want to find the exact line. There we go. Do you think I can stay to become nothing to you? Do you think I am an automaton, a machine without feeling, and can bear to have my morsel of bread snatched from my lips and drop of living water dashed from my cup? Do you think because I am poor, obscure, plain and little, I am soulless and heartless? You think wrong. I have as much soul as you and full as much heart, and if God has gifted me with some beauty and much wealth, I shall have made it hard for you to leave me as it is now for me to leave you. I am not talking to you now through the medium of custom, conventionalities, or nor even for moral flesh. It is my spirit that addresses your spirit, just as if both has passed through the grave and we stood at God's feet equal as we are. I love that. It's so interesting with Jane that she longs for liberty. She longs to be able to do what she wants. She wants to travel. She wants to get away from her horrible childhood with Mrs. Reed. But then it's society convention that causes her to do what she needs to do later on the book. To do with Thornfield and this reveal of what's the truth of what's going on in the house, that thing of what society thinks should be and what reality is. I love that you've got this person who is kind of a rule breaker, as is Mr. Rochester, and all of these different characters who are saying, no, society says you have to be this, and they're going, well, why? Why do I have to be this? It's such an interesting reflection on the past as well, in regards to that we don't really see this in classic literature, because whenever you think of classics, or at least I do, Fontaine, it's like Jane Austen, or something like that, that you courtesy, you bow, you say this, you say that, you do, there's set rules of what you do, and that's it. And so to have these characters who go, no, I don't want that. I really respect them for that and love them for it too. It's so interesting that having read Take Courage, how Charlotte is portrayed in that, and how I've read about her portrayed in other books as well and such. It's very clear to me that she was very much a control freak. It is so true. So I don't know if maybe the whole thing of the control of what society thinks and feels versus the reality of what Rochester and Jane feels in this book is her struggle as well. I mean, that's total speculation by me. So, I have no idea. But I find that so interesting, the concept of conflictions, of how in this book and how they relate to Charlotte herself. I think it's wonderful. And just to give you an idea, I think what this passage that Charlotte is saying as well is very interesting to how Charlotte feels about becoming famous and writing and all this lot. And this is nearer the end of the book, and Jane is just reflecting. I nearly called her Charlotte. Jane is reflecting on something that has just happened to her. She says, "Here is a new card turned up. It's a fine thing, reader, to be lifted in a moment from ignorance to wealth. A very fine thing, but not a matter one can comprehend or consequently enjoy all at once. And then there are other changes in life, far more thrilling and rapture-giving. This is solid, an affair of the actual world, nothing ideal about it. All its associations are solid and sober, and its manifestations are the same. One does not jump and spring and shout hurrah at hearing one has got a fortune. One begins to consider responsibilities and to ponder business. On a base of steady satisfaction raise certain grave cares, and we contain ourselves and brood over our bliss with a solemn brow." So, yeah, it's so powerful a piece. I don't know though if this is probably going to sound weird. Now I've read it, I don't know if I want to read any more of Charlotte's books, and that's only because really, the only person I know who has read Charlotte's other books are my sister. Is my sister. And she didn't like them. And I know that's probably a silly thing to say, that I don't feel like reading them because my sister said she didn't like them. But, I just, there's nothing that's drawing me, like pulling me to say, I've got to read the rest of Charlotte's books. I have to. Oh my God, I have to. I'm like, I adored this. I really adored this. This isn't going to be leaving my bookshelf. I really loved this, but I'm not drawn to her other books. It's strange. But then my sister is reading various other Bronte books like Agnes Grey and such. She's gotten hold of copies of them, so it would be interesting to hear her thoughts when she's finished those. Hopefully she's going to be coming here in March, so we'll be able to do videos about our thoughts on that. But anyway, back to this. I absolutely fell in love with this. I adored Rochester especially. He and Gilbert, and okay, I know he's not on the same league and but kind of like Heathcliff are pretty level with me right now. I love all of them, but there's something about Rochester that just, he has a wit and a charm and a loving, and his emotions, and he's just wonderful character. I really adored Rochester in this book. I would recommend it, definitely. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Okay, so when it comes to adaptations, I've been going through all my various adaptations that I've got. 3 of them I've got a DVD and 2 of them are audio based. Now, when I was reading the book, I came across the 1944 version of Jane Eyre starring Orson Welles and Joan Fontaine. I'd seen this before, but many years ago. So I could sort of remember it, but I couldn't remember it, and I found a copy and I was like, you know what, I'll just buy it and watch it. This cuts out like half the book. It's not great for that, but it's not too bad of what they show. I liked Orson Welles' as Mr. Rochester, didn't really like Joan Fontaine's Jane. Now, the thing about that is that, I know this probably sounds harsh or whatever, but she is described as, she's plain and, you know, and everything. So when she does the speech that I read out of her, you know, I am poor, plain, and all this lot, Joan Fontaine isn't plain in the slightest. So it just kind of makes her words soulless. She doesn't have that big passion and drive. She doesn't let loose that I really want her to do. But then it was of the time and all that lot, I understand. But I would recommend it, but then at the same time, don't expect it to be exactly the same as the book. And look out for Elizabeth Taylor as a kid playing Helen at the school that Jane attends when Jane is young, same age. Okay, then we've got the 2 main BBC adaptations that I've got. Right, the 2005 version with Toby Stephens and Ruth Wilson. I really liked this. I've been rewatching them, as I said, during this time, and I've really found this interesting of the way that it carries and conveys certain things. There is various stuff taken out, and I felt that the last episode, because there's so much that happens in that section of the book that it covers, I think it would have worked better as a 5-episode series than a 4-episode series, because there is so much in that final episode. But then that's just my personal opinion, of course. It is well cast. I did like them both in the leads. I thought they were very good. The one scene did irk me, and I agree with my sister with this particular scene, and it's the post-wedding scene when Rochester is trying to get through to Jane and get her to do what he wants to do, and it's not well done at all. I'm not talking about the actors, I'm talking about the way that it's written, the way it's been done. It's done where they're lying down on her bed, and it's like, no, wrong location for a start. It lost all of the formality. Not that it needed formality, because it's not a formal environment, but the thing of, it's about them and this clash that they have, this passion versus passion but the passion is going in 2 different directions, and they won't connect, and how that builds up and builds up and builds up. And on this, it's just them sat lying on a bed talking for a few minutes. It lost that gusto. Other than that scene, I'm perfectly happy with this, but as I said, I would have preferred the stuff in episode 4 to be split over 2. But the one to watch, if you want literal full pages, full chapters, completely adapted, including scenes and characters that modern day adapters would never touch, including this one. They just don't go there because it has pace issues and all that lot. The Godfather, as it were, of adaptations for Jane Eyre is the 1983 version with Timothy Dalton. And I have to say, I think for TV and film section wise of this lot, I think he's my favourite Rochester. He plays him so well, and he really gets the wit and the cunning and the playing games and the emotion beautifully. This, yeah, if you want to have a proper, in a sense, adaptation, like literal page to screen exact, adaptation, go for this one. 1983. It was very good. Now, for when it comes to stuff on my iPod, I've got 2 things here that are 2 very different genres. Now, first, I've got the latest BBC radio dramatisation of Jane Eyre, starring Amanda Hale and Tom Burke. Now, when it comes to audio drama, this is the only audio drama I have. So my favourite Rochester in the audio drama range is Tom Burke. I adore Tom Burke. I think he's a wonderful, wonderful actor. And what he brings to this, I love. And when his voice quivers with emotion when he's trying to tell Jane this story, about what happened to him and everything. It's just, it's heartbreaking. It's wonderful. It's a couple of hours long. It is reduced down because of the amount of time, but what they've also done to make it easier, they've reduced the cast size. So for example, Adele, the little girl, she's referred to by the actors in this, but she doesn't actually appear as a character in the drama. So it cuts out loads and loads and loads of stuff with Adele that you don't need. So I respect them for doing that. It's a really good sized dramatisation. It's well put together, and I love the cast. I absolutely love it. And the other one that I have, a totally different genre, is Jane Eyre the musical. I've been listening to this non-stop for weeks. I always liked this musical. It's a really underrated musical. It's beautifully written, absolutely gorgeous, and the cast are great. It was from 2005, 2006, I think it was. But yeah, it doesn't run anymore. I wish I had seen it. I really wish I do. Someone's uploaded the majority of it, this, from being filmed inside the theatre, when it, was originally on and such, but it's only starts at the point where she arrives at Thornfield, so there's a whole section of the first act that isn't there, but other than that, the rest of the show is in there on YouTube, and it's so interesting and to watch it, to see how it was performed, and I love it. The music is absolutely stunning, and as I was reading the book, I would get up to chapters and suddenly the song would pop into my head as I was reading it. The scene, the songs from those scenes. It's so underrated. It's so beautiful. I absolutely adore this musical. I would really strongly recommend anyone who likes musicals to check it out, and if you like Jane Eyre and everything. It's also nice to listen to, just in general when I'm reading, because the melodies and such is absolutely beautiful. And there's a section of it that gets repeated often, and it's kind of the theme of Jane Eyre, and it's saying about bravery, and it says, I know you're afraid, I'm as scared as you are, but willing to be brave, brave enough for love. And what that means, and I adore how it all comes together, especially for the final song. So yeah, I'd recommend that. So I would say I'd recommend all 5 of these, but if you want the Godfather drama, then go for the 1983 Timothy Dalton version. For the radio play, go for the most recent BBC with Tom Burke as Mr. Rochester, and then for musical, Jane Eyre the musical with Broadway cast. All right then. That's all I've got to say about Jane Eyre. So I hope you've enjoyed this review. If you read Jane Eyre, I'd love to know what you thought of it. You leave me a comment in the comments box below, or give me a thumbs up, a thumbs down. Entirely up to you, let you decide. And I'll be back soon with the announcement of what my next book will be, which is non-fiction. And I am back to the jars because Jane Eyre was my last pick for January. So yeah, I will be back later, guys. Bye.